Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and today, Nate's Peeps, because I'm here with my great friend Nathaniel Tolle, full name. I want to tell you guys, he is the author of one of my favorite books ever, Pumpkin Cinema, the best movies for Halloween. And since we are approaching the Halloween season, I've got to plug the book. It is wonderful, and it's so visually appealing. There are so many beautiful photographs in the book. As you can see here, I've got mine marked with little post-it notes because there's so much good stuff in here. I just had to go back and reference it for later. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to talk with you again.
Thank you so much, Kelsi. We still have officially 2 more days left of summer. So we made it. We're still in shark season.
We barely made it, but we squeaked by, and I'm really excited to still be kind of talking a little beachy thematic stuff with sharks, because that's what today's chat is all about, guys. Me and Nathan, we're talking about shark movies and 2 shark books. Well, I should say 1.5, but we'll get to that later because one's not completely about sharks, but a shark makes an appearance. So we're going to count it and let that go and let that slide. But Nathan came up with this idea, and thank you, Nathan, because this was such a fun idea for a marathon. And I'm a big shark fan. I grew up loving sharks. It's my favorite animal. And really, that's a large part due to my dad, who's a big shark fan as well. He was at one point, he worked with wildlife and he wanted to be a marine biologist, but he studied more other animals, land animals and stuff, but he did work on the water every now and then, just not as a official marine biologist.
That's very nice. And did you grow up with the book Hungry, Hungry Sharks as well?
No, I didn't. As you know, like I've mentioned before, I was not a big reader as a kid. I wish I was, but nope. We did grow up with a lot of Jacques Cousteau, the oceanographer. We had his whole set of like encyclopedia books, and I just loved to look at those Jacques Cousteau books. And if you've ever seen The Life of Aquatic with Steve Zissou, starring Bill Murray, because I know you're a Bill Murray fan. He's wearing that red beanie, and that is like an ode to Jacques Cousteau. So that's another reason why I love the ocean.
And do you remember the first shark movie you ever saw?
God, I mean, I'm sure it was Jaws. I mean, my dad has been historically like a huge fan of Jaws. He saw it in the theater when it was released, you know, at the time. He saw it multiple times in the theater. He took my mom on a date and they went. Yeah, I mean, I'm jealous too because
once I get my time machine working, I'm going to definitely go back in time and attend that first screening because it's fun to hear stories about what the mood was like and what the audience reactions were and how the movie ended. And Richard Dreyfuss was just like pretty much doing jumping jacks, like Spielberg did it, he did it. It's really cute to hear those stories.
It's amazing to hear those stories, and it would be awesome to go back and to experience that, like you said, in a time machine. Man, that's where I would go. And then my second pick, not to go on a tangent, but it would be The Exorcist. I would go to see that in the theater.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing, just to see how everyone would react, and it would be all new and like, oh, everyone would freak out and stuff. Be incredible.
There's an amazing documentary on YouTube about that, about when it came out. So I will send you the link to that.
Yeah, please. I'd love to check it out. That's one of my favorite films ever, just like Jaws is. So really, I guess definitely Jaws would have to be the first one because of my dad introducing me to the movie. And he would quote it all the time. He liked it so much that he replicated, you know, the license plate that they take out of the shark that isn't the shark,
yes,
the tiger shark. He had that license plate replicated and he put it on the front of his car. He's just a huge Jaws buff. In fact, every birthday and Christmas, we get him Jaws gifts because that's his favorite thing. He's like, oh, Jaws book, behind the scenes book to add to my collection. Jaws little figurine.
Yeah, there's endless merchandise. And when you said tiger shark, I should have immediately said, a what?
Yeah, I love that part. I laugh every time. It never fails. So here's a question. You asked me what my first shark movie was. I had the standard answer. What was your first one? Do you remember?
It would have had to be Jaws 2, or Jaws 2. One of those. I don't know which one, but I watched them repeatedly growing up. And I'll tell a funny story about seeing Jaws: The Revenge later on.
Can't wait to hear it. And we are going to be talking, like Nathan just teased, about Jaws as we get more into this chat. We are going to be talking about Jaws 2 and Jaws: The Revenge. And yes, we kind of withheld and did not watch or rewatch Jaws. We were like, no, let's watch other films and stuff. And the only reason we watched Jaws 2 is because we did read Jaws 2, the novelization, which we'll talk about in a second. But first, we're going to kick things off with the movie Bait, which I made Nathan add to the list because he had tried to watch it, I believe, right? You tried to watch it and stopped a while ago.
I did watch it about probably 5 years ago, and I got really sleepy. It was late at night, and I stopped halfway, and I didn't feel the huge desire to go back. But so I'm glad I got a chance to watch it full.
Me too, because it actually some parts made me really laugh and surprise me. But I will say the to not just talk about the laughs and like some of the cheesiness. Yeah, that it had that stuff, but it did have a really unique premise. And so I'll read you the IMDb description for those of you guys watching. So Bait is from 2012. Director was Kimball Rendall, and it's basically about a freak tsunami, and it traps shoppers at a coastal Australian supermarket inside the building, along with a 12-foot great white shark. Actually, it's more than one. It's at least two great white sharks. And so I thought the setting was so different because we especially in this marathon where we're watching a couple of shark movies in a row, it's beach, 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 ocean, 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 and then this is something like with a supermarket. And so to me, I liked that a lot because it was more than just seeing all the sand and the endless water. You had the shelves, you had the stuff in the store that kind of gave it a little bit of a flavor. Just I liked it that part of it a lot.
Yeah, just the four-word synopsis or premise: sharks in a supermarket. Kind of it
Yeah.
strikes the same kind of excitement as snakes on a plane did.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great kind of tagline. And so I will say the reason I wanted to convince Nathan to add this in the first place, my dad was like, "You got to watch it. It's so funny. It's sharks in a supermarket," just like Nathan referenced. And so that's why I was like, okay, we should try to watch this. So the ratings, let's take a look at this. 5.2 out of 10 on IMDb. It was rated 46% on Rotten Tomatoes, and people on Letterboxd gave it a 2.4 out of 5. But 83% of Google users liked it, which is relatively high for Google users. I mean, usually that number's definitely always higher than the critics' ratings anyway. But just for like kind of a corny film like this, I guess because of, the popularity of movies like Sharknado, maybe movies of this nature do pretty well with audiences. What do you
Mhm.
think?
For sure. And I thought this movie was going to be a real banger because with sharks in supermarket, how can you fail?
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was that funny. I didn't think it was that over the top. It just feels like it's more of a drama. They feel much more concerned with giving every character some kind of like Shakespearean storyline. So it's much more focused on like redemption, regret, love, betrayal than it is about sharks tearing people to shreds in the aisles. And
Yes,
I thought
yes.
that like I like the way the tsunami hits like in the middle of an armed robbery. So we're already getting this huge um, so much drama and a lot of fatalities even before the sharks come into the equation. But once the tsunami hits, I think the whole great location of the supermarket completely falls apart. It might as well be in some drab, colorless sewer. It looks terrible. It doesn't look like a supermarket. It looks like the size of Walgreens. They don't really exploit this location like a movie like Intruder did.
Right.
And it wouldn't have bothered me about it not being fun, but I didn't think the characters were that interesting, and the movie just refuses to have a good time. And I think the tone was kind of jarring. You got these two characters in a parking lot. They're one of the characters is like a Paris Hilton parody,
Yeah.
and they look like they belong in a totally different movie.
Yeah, they didn't really mesh with anything else. I think they were just there because one of them was a super terrible person and you just wanted to see him get bit or eaten. And I won't say which happened. So, yeah, you just really wanted one of the characters to just go away. And I think that's why they were there. And so it was very kind of on the surface. All your points are great points. Now, I will clarify when I said they had some funny, cheesy parts, I guess I'm talking, and this really jumped out to me on a lot of these movies. I mean, the effects. When you take a movie like Bait, and you look at the shark effects specifically, that's what makes me laugh because it's so laughable when the shark attacks. Like if the shark jumps out of the water, I cannot get over the effects. And so that to me actually makes me laugh. So that's the
Mhm.
part I laugh at. And specifically, we'll get to a kill later that made me laugh. That was so absurd because we're going to talk about our top 3 favorite shark kills out of this whole list of movies.
Yes, we'll definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
um, and did it feel weird that like every single male character they were just like fighting to be the most heroic one. Like every one of them we're so eager to risk their lives in this impossibly dangerous situation to save everybody. Just give me one coward in the group just to mix it up.
Well, that security guard, there was this cop who was injured and he sent like his little security guard who worked with him. He's like, go swim over there. And the guy looked pretty hesitant. But yes, that was as close to fair. Cowardice as you got. I totally understand what you mean. And I mean, I just feel like it's strange. Like you said, all the characters super over the top in terms of I'm a hero. You had a lot love triangle going on as well in the movie. You had a girl and two guys kind of, not fighting at all, actually. That's the part about it. They weren't really fighting over her. It was a very understanding love triangle in a weird way.
Yeah, I like that part. I thought that was kind of mature to handle it.
Yeah, they were mature. I think that, but that's not necessarily realistic how they would have handled it per se, but
realistic or fun.
Yes, exactly. So like, because there wasn't much drama. It was more like, oh, it's painful, but we accept this, that we're here together in this triangle here. But, things develop and we get kind of like a romantic angle happening. It kind of narrows down to two characters in terms of the triangle becomes, just a regular ping pong between two people. And, like you said, now that you pointed that out, I do think the shark attacks were secondary overall.
Yeah, I did like the way that the sharks were kind of introduced. I think there's some really good shots after the tsunami of like corpses in the water, and then and then one will be dragged away out of the frame. And so the sharks have a very subtle way of introducing themselves that I thought was really well done. And there's a really great shot of a dead body underwater.
Yes.
And then they're holding onto his arm, and then the body turns around and drifts away while his arm is remaining. I'm not describing it well, but it's really good.
No. That part is great. And I think you did describe it pretty accurately. Basically, the arm is left behind and they're like kind of clutching at the arm, and then the body goes floating off. It was awesome. So there are some good shots. It's just that when the shark's out of the water jumping around, that's where it looks terrible. And that's where I'm like, man, practical effects. But the problem with these newer shark movies is you can't use practical effects to have a shark jumping out of the water like that, like to the distance that they wanted it. So there's really no way to make it look really great, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was actually a combination of CGI and animatronics. So every now and then they'll look good.
Well, they'll look good in the water.
But not in the money shots.
No, not in the no. And that's the part that's a bummer, but that's the part that makes me laugh at the same time. So to me, in that way, it was fun. Like, oh, look how terrible that looks. But yeah, it could have been a little more, fun, a little more carefree. It was way bogged down.
There were a couple very effective scares. I thought there's one where somebody steps on a severed head. That was well done.
And
a shark kill for the ages.
Yes.
I could watch 100 times. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
The main actress is Sharni Vinson, and she was the star of You're Next, which is a really
yes, and I just watched that not that long ago.
Oh, excellent. And Xavier Samuel, he was in the Australian torture porn movie, The Loved Ones. He looks totally different. I didn't recognize him at all. And the robber turned hero, Julian McMahon, he's in a bunch of TV shows that I've heard of, but have never had a desire to watch. Charmed, Nip Tuck, Profiler. Just
I haven't seen any of those either.
Endless list of modern TV shows.
Well, now he's got bait on his list, on his IMDb list. So there you go. Overall, I mean, do you want to give it a rating or like a thumbs up, thumbs down?
I thought that it was overambitious, and this is one movie I would kind of like to see remade one of these days. I would give it a 5 out of 10. I can't really recommend it. I didn't have a great time with it, and I didn't think it was that scary.
I would give it
funny.
I would give it a 6 out of 10 because I thought, the premise was interesting. I agree with you. I would love to see it remade, like technically a little bit better. And also with a little more casual of a script in terms of, how the characters are relating to each other and, have the sharks front and center because really that's
in a
why
real
we're
supermarket.
Here. Yeah, that it would be better. I mean, I praise the setting, but it would be better if they utilized it even more. I just like that it wasn't set in the ocean though. So to me, that was a pro. And then that
they tried something new.
Yeah, the one kill that I'm going to talk about later, I feel like it's worth it just to watch the kill. So I'm going to recommend it for the kill. And we'll get to that later. So let's get into the next movie. Take it away, Nathan.
Okay, the next movie is called Great White. This is the most recent film we're going to talk about. It just came out a couple months ago from Australia. It stars Katrina Bowden, who you might recognize from Tucker and Dale versus Evil, one of the funniest movies in the last 20 years for sure. And she stars as a young woman who is about to become married with children. She and her husband make a living by flying very wealthy people out to exotic islands off the Australian coast. And in the movie, they are taking out a couple to an island for the purpose of scattering some ashes as part of a dying wish. And so they land the plane and immediately find this corpse. And amazingly, a corpse holding the most miraculous cell phone I've ever seen in my whole life. How this thing managed to be charged, dry, and on this person is remarkable.
This is exactly what I said. I was like, come on, it wouldn't be freaking on. There's no way.
I know. He's holding on to it too. And they're by looking through the phone, they're able to surmise that this guy's companion might very well be out there in the water. And so rather than call the Coast Guard, they decide, or the main guy decides to investigate on their own. And so he flies a plane looking for this boat, and then they land and find another corpse, and then they find the great white shark responsible. And the shark rams into the plane and forces them to evacuate onto an inflatable raft. And so I think that's pretty good on the plot. Kelsi, what did you think about Great White?
You know, I was thoroughly disappointed with this movie. I got to be honest. I had such high hopes. The poster looked great. I was like, this is going to be it. This is going to be the new great shark movie. I don't know why my hopes were so high. I thought it was going to be good. And it was such a bummer because I thought the acting was terrible. I thought the premise was ridiculous. I thought the shark attacks didn't look that good. And that's what I wanted it to look. I mean, that's what I counted on the most was the shark attacks at least looking good. And again, the same thing, like when they went to the CGI shots, that's what I didn't like. And a lot of it felt like CGI. I don't know if they used any practical effects. Do you know? It didn't seem like it to me because it was really.
I don't know either. I think it, much like Bait, I think they also used a mix of CGI and animatronics. And a lot of reviews complained about the appearance of the sharks. I actually thought they looked really good, but
maybe I'm just picky. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that the overall cinematography is this movie's strength. I thought it's a great looking movie. There's some overhead shots of the silhouettes of sharks kind of circling the raft. I thought was breathtaking, and much like so many other films, ever since Open Water is kind of a requirement for a shark movie like this to have a nighttime scene. And for this, I say the more the merrier, because when you mix sharks, thunder, lightning, nighttime, ocean, I'm on cloud nine. So
yeah,
and I thought this movie did a really good job on that. The scariest part of the movie by far is when a very tired character is rowing, and then she drops the oar and doesn't realize it for like a few minutes, and then it forces somebody else to kind of swim after the oar.
That part,
unbearably tense.
It was so tense. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That was scary. I was like, come on, swim. And that's what you're supposed to feel when you're watching a shark film. Like, get your feet out of the water, swim, get to the raft, whatever. You know, all those types of emotion, that's how you're supposed to react. So it accomplished that for sure, the whole tense feeling that it gave you. But, you know, like I said, just the acting really held it back for me personally. I don't know if you felt the same or not.
I thought that it was less about the acting and more about how the characters were written. These are cookie cutter cliched characters. And the main problem about this movie is that just in recent years, we've been treated to the Reef, the Shallows, 47 meters down, 1 and 2. And so the bar has been set extremely high. And this movie does nothing to separate itself from the pack. It borrows elements from so many different movies, and I didn't find anybody interesting, or it wasn't that there weren't enough scary moments. And had this movie really delivered on its ending, had it delivered the goods, my thumb could have gone up, but it kind of ends on a whimper. And so I can't recommend this. I can't recommend it either. It's a shame, and I believe this is the one movie we had to pay for.
Yeah. I mean, almost everything was free, like either on Tubi or, I mean, for me, maybe one was on Amazon Prime. I can't remember, but yes, we did have to pay for this one, and that was a bummer. I can't recommend it either. I got to say, I would give it a 3 out of 10. I mean, some of the stuff. I agree with you about some of the cinematography, especially. I do recall the shot with the shadows in the water. I thought that was great, but I just felt like I don't know, it didn't deliver, and I had such high hopes, and that was the part that was a bummer, and that's why I can't give it a higher rating.
Yeah, I had a really good poster, really good trailer. Coming from Australia, same country that gave us the Reef. So
Yeah.
hopes are really high for this one too. So it was disappointing.
Yeah, so we didn't get the shark movie we wanted.
Oh yeah, they're on this very small inflatable raft, and two people are having a very private conversation as if nobody else can hear them. That I had to make a note of that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that part was crazy. Also, there was you have your standard asshole character in a lot of these movies, and I feel like you had the asshole character in this movie as well. That you were just like, you don't care if anything bad happens to this particular person, and yeah, it was great when they were taken care of. I was like, yeah. Also, sharks attacking helicopters, sometimes it just comes off like so cheesy. That part was also absurd. The shark really went after that. Like you were saying, they found the shark. Really, the shark found them in their helicopter. But we learn in other movies, like in Jaws 2 specifically, especially the book, they detail how sharks actually, they're attracted somewhat to the noise of the helicopter. So to me, like knowing that about sharks, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. But if you're just watching this movie without knowing that about sharks, you might be a little confused as to, well, why is the shark going after them in a helicopter and then it doesn't touch them in the raft right away?
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, but helicopters taste delicious. I don't know if you go around licking them, but yeah, you should. They're great.
I should try it. That's going to be on my next menu when I'm out of town, and I got to find a helicopter pad somewhere. Ridiculous. That's wonderful. All right. So, any more thoughts on Great White?
No, not really. I would have much rather listened to some albums from Great White.
Yeah, that would have been a lot better. Great White was a great disappointment then, I guess. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the Jaws talk right now. We're going to be talking about Jaws for the next few minutes, starting off with Jaws 2, the book and movie. We're going to kind of talk about them, side by side here. I'll start off with the movie, though. So Jaws 2 was released in 1978. Let's just talk about the ratings for a second. It got a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 61% on Rotten Tomatoes as of today, 51% on Metacritic, and 85% of Google users like this movie. And that doesn't surprise me. It's a pretty decent movie, especially when you look at other shark movies from way later. I feel like the Jaws franchise is a lot of fun. And I don't know, I always like it. I don't know if it's just because of a bias, because of how much I love the original Jaws, that nothing in the franchise really bothers me. And we'll get into that when we talk about Jaws the Revenge, because my dad was making fun of me because I was actually like saying about how many things in the movie I liked. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. It'll be a lot of fun. But in terms of Jaws 2, of course, we've got Roy Scheider coming back, and I love him, and I always loved him. I almost said my own last name because his last name is so close to mine. And as a kid, when I was a big Jaws fan, I was like, his name's almost like my last name, which is Schreiber. So I think that's kind of fun. But he's back as Chief Brody, and I'm so happy because I love him as an actor. So the plot, IMDb says, Police Chief Brody must protect the citizens of Amity after a second monstrous shark begins terrorizing the waters. So here we go. I'll bring in the book a little bit, and I'll show the cover because I kind of want to do a side-by-side comparison of the plot a little bit. So Jaws 2, the book, is by Hank Searles. Searles by Hank Searles. I never can pronounce anything correctly, so that's not a surprise. But
yeah, try pronouncing the director of Jaws 2.
The director of Jaws 2, Janae Schwark.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know. How would you say it?
I have no idea. I'm not going to try.
Okay. So Jaws 2, the book, what I like about it is that it gives motivation to the shark. It's not random. I don't know. There's some things in here that I also dislike though, and we'll get to that. But I just want to say you actually get a peek into the shark's psyche in this book, whereas in the movie, of course, you don't. It's not like the shark's going to have a voiceover in the movie, but I liked getting a peek into the mind.
the shark is just a bastard in the movies, but in the book, it's just a very, very hungry mother.
Yes, exactly. And I love that difference. So it gives like reasoning to why she'd be going out and attacking everybody and anything. Like, why are you attacking random stuff? Why would you even go after or near a helicopter? Well, she's hungry as hell because all these babies in her stomach. And in the book, it describes how they're fighting internally in her womb. And she's afraid that they're going to eat each other if she doesn't eat enough. So that's a part of the motivation of her, attacking and feeding and just being ravenous. Really, that's the reason behind it. So I kind of liked that. I thought that was really different than what the movie did, of course. But obviously, it's kind of the same, mostly the same premise, other than that. And other than the mafia stuff in the book, and we'll talk about that. There's like a whole mafia side story. And this is a continuation from the Jaws book by Peter Benchley, which has a lot to do about, they mention the mafia. And in Jaws, the book, they also mention an affair between Chief Brody's wife and
Hooper.
Yes, Hooper. That just came out of nowhere and was really weird. Like, why? I'm so glad they left it out of the movie. Spielberg's a genius for like not going that direction or the mafia stuff. It could have been such a different movie, but like in the right hands, everything came together.
Yeah, there's a lot of mafia mumbo jumbo in this movie, in this book, and it bored me. And everything about Ellen Brody's insistence that the Brownies Club should be able to participate in some sailing race. That's so stupid.
Like, why was that like, such a prominent part of the book? I don't know. Maybe they were like, let's show that the Brownies can do anything that the guys can do. I don't know. That was very random and strange. But, and like I said, the cool part was the shark, but there wasn't enough shark in the book.
No, there was not. Just a couple paragraphs. And did the character of Chief Brody in the book remind you anything like Roy Scheider in the movies?
No. I feel like the book Brody was wimpy.
Yeah, and very he liked to fat shame people too.
yeah, that was weird.
I cannot imagine Roy Scheider just calling somebody he's arresting fatso and then saying Mike, his son, Mike was an athlete, Andy was a buffoon, the fat kid was an accident waiting to happen. That's not gonna come
It's
from.
not him. It's not Brody. Yeah, it's just not Brody. Like when you think of like, the awesome scene at the table where he's like, doing that with his son, like it just is not in character for him to be speaking that way. So yeah, I do feel like the characterization's very different for sure. I guess the only reason I even liked it remotely is just because it's fun to see the differences between the movie and the book, and also because of the psyche. That's what led me to give it a higher rating on Goodreads when I rated it. I think I rated it a 3.5 rating out of 5. Okay. And that seems kind of high, but like I said, the shark stuff was cool. Just wanted more shark overall.
Yeah, and it's been a long, long time since Jaws: The Revenge, and so just the fact that we're getting a new story about the Brody family made me happy. And I like the fact that it went into a lot of different directions from the movie. They don't really deal with all of Mike and his friends. That's not a part of the movie really at all. But they'll recreate a couple memorable scenes. For example, the water skier scene that plays out differently. It was kind of fun to visualize it and see, which one would have been scarier.
Yeah,
because they're both very interesting, and I actually read this all in one sitting. I don't usually do that, but I just gotten back from, this was like a day after a very long road trip, and I just wanted to just lay down and do absolutely nothing. So I read it from start to finish, but has nothing to do with the fact that this book is a page turner. It's just that I didn't want to do anything else.
And you just wanted to relax.
Yeah, I didn't really. I don't think it was that good. I liked the character of Andy. I thought his arc was the most compelling, but it wasn't resolved whatsoever. Mike Brody doesn't come across as likable either, and not just because he has a blonde wispy mustache for some reason. But if you are a sucker for the Jaws franchise and you want to see the Brodys doing something different, it's not bad. And I like the quote, when the good Lord made the great white shark, he was tired, he forgot to give him fear.
Yeah. That was a good quote. And let's compare it back to the movie real quick. So what do you think overall about the movie? What are your thoughts on the movie? I like Jaws 2, the movie, a lot, but rewatching it, it's been a while since I watched it. I found that I didn't like it as much as I remembered. actually.
It is not without its flaws.
Oh yeah.
But
I mean,
I've seen this movie about 20 times probably, and I think it's really entertaining. Just the fact, I mean, to have to make a sequel to Jaws must have been so intimidating.
oh my
And I
God.
know that the producers originally were going to go into they're going to make a movie about Quint and his whole nightmare on the USS Indianapolis. So that was the first idea. But then the studio didn't want that. They didn't want to go away from Amity and the Brody family. And so there's the fact that Roy Scheider came back. We don't get Quint or Hooper, but I think Roy Scheider is such. I love his performances in these movies, and he confirms the fact that Chief Brody is the ultimate hero. And I thought he did. Roy Scheider didn't want to do this movie, but I think he delivers a great performance. And like for example, the scene when he interrupts the council meeting to show them the photograph that has just been developed. I thought that was so really powerful.
Yeah.
And I thought he was given a lot of compelling scenes. Much like the original, this was an absolute nightmare to shoot, but I thought the action scenes looked amazing. And
Yeah.
I think that the director just deserves full credit. I thought he really delivered the goods in this movie. But yeah, it's just, I can't help but wish I could, I wish there could be some changes. So what were some things that you didn't like about it?
Well, I will say before I get into the things I didn't like, one of the things I did like though was the ending was so much more clear than the book. Basically ends the same way. The shark meets its demise. But like in the book, I was confused as to what was happening. Like it wasn't explained very well. It was kind of glossed over. It was like, this happens. And I was like, wait, what? And I reread the paragraph and I was like, what? And then I knew what happened from the movie, but I was like, so it's the same thing that happened? It just, the way it was described in the book was so rushed and weird.
I think I responded with whatever.
Yeah, it was not executed well in the book at all. Whereas in the movie, I love that part. I loved, when the shark meets its demise, it looked really good in my opinion. I thought that was great. So that's a positive. Some of the negatives, I just thought some of the kids sailing and the shark coming after them and the attack parts were just kind of absurd and unbelievable how the kids would react. And there's this one part where this one girl would not stop screaming and I was just like, shut up. But that's probably what would really happen. I mean, she'd be screaming. Yeah. But I was just like, oh, shut up.
And the fact that we're back in Amity and they brought back a lot of familiar faces, it's just good to see these people again. And there are some really scary scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I think the main problem I have with it is that I know that you can't replace Hooper and Quint. And so it seems like they went for quantity over quality. There's so many teens in this movie, and that's pretty much the focus. That's pretty much the second half of the movie. And there's got to be like 15, 16 teenagers. And the fact that the shark only eats one of them is disappointing. I know that they were trying to keep the body count relatively low to get a PG rating. But yeah, I don't think that helped the quality of the movie very much. And and the fact that the shark is able to completely take down an entire helicopter and the pilot, yet it can't do anything about these. Where they're essentially just floating in the water on these rafts. And
that's pretty much the number one complaint. Like, why can't he just bite through all the rafts if he can literally bring down the helicopter? It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, the teens are likable, and I thought they were pretty well acted, but they don't. There's not enough. I mean, there's a character that is the son of Mayor Vaughn, and I couldn't even tell you which one that is now, even though I've seen the movie 20 times.
Me neither.
But the fact that they didn't really bring that into the story at all was disappointing. And there's one character, even though I've seen this movie so many times, I forgot she was even in the movie until like there's like 10 minutes to go, and she has that monologue. She prays to Jesus to help. It's almost like they forgot who was in the movie, and they she was actually just like part of set dressing, and they thought she was in the movie, so they brought her in. And I guess she has other scenes, but I don't remember her at all.
She's just kind of a mystery character.
Did you have a favorite scene?
Although I hated the helicopter scene, for some reason, whenever the shark goes for a helicopter, I somehow enjoy it. So that was one of my favorite scenes. But really, the ending, how the shark dies, that's my favorite. I love that part. Going
back to the helicopter, I don't know if you watched any of the deleted scenes on the DVD.
No.
It's infuriating. They cut 45 seconds off of this movie, and it's so disappointing. Okay, first of all, they cut a great shot of the helicopter and the pilot underwater when the shark is actually attacking them. They introduced the scene in the television broadcast, and so sometimes you'll see it, but it wasn't in the theatrical cut at all, and so that was stupid. And there was a great scene in the like the board meeting when the mayor and everybody else is like behind the scenes, and Chief Brody's waiting, and they're doing like a vote count to see whether or not Chief Brody will keep his job or not. And the only person that votes no is the mayor. So, and I love that. It gives him redemption, and because he's such a sleazy character in the original, and I've always loved Murray Hamilton in these movies. I think his performance is so good.
Yeah.
And I think I really do like him. And so the fact that, he turned face in this great scene and they cut it.
And then they cut it.
It's so disappointing, especially since Murray Hamilton had to leave the production faster than he wanted to. His wife was going through a cancer scare, and he was going to quit the production. It's like, I don't care about my career. I just want to get home to my wife and make sure she's okay. And then the director or the producers talked him into staying just for a few days, just so they could film all of the scenes. And so all of the scenes were done first.
Well, I'm glad he got to be in it, but
I know, me too. It would have been,
yeah.
He had so much to this movie.
I agree. I like him as an actor a lot. So so that's kind of crazy that they cut those, and it's not like it added a whole bunch of length. It sounds like
to have that. We got to keep momentum going. That was their excuse.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I guess for the shark and the helicopter, they thought it was maybe too scary, and they thought that might not get them the PG rating that they wanted. I thought the director did a really good job, except for the opening scene. I love John Williams' score. It has this kind of like an ethereal, tranquil quality. It really kind of feels like it was made to be listened to underwater.
Yeah.
I thought the photography is stunning, but I thought that the opening shark attack was really weak. I know you're not going to be able to compare it to the original, but man, it's like they didn't even try.
Yeah.
It's like there was very little suspense, and I didn't like how they kind of felt like required to do the dun 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 to introduce the shark, and it takes away a lot of the thought. It wasn't surprising.
Yeah, I understand that wavelength completely. So, overall, of course I'd recommend it because I love Jaws and the Jaws franchise. So I'm not going to say I don't recommend it, because I do. And overall, a great time, an entertaining time every time. Yeah, it's not without its flaws, but it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. And that's my final thoughts on Jaws 2.
Yeah, and I like the line when Ellen is she tells Martin Brody, her husband, that's your third cigarette today, and he says, with coffee.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I like this movie a lot. I think it's one of the best shark movies. It's not in the top tier, but it is definitely the second one. Like I would say, it's like Jaws, Open Water, The Reef, and yeah, I would say those are the top three. And then the second tier, Jaws 2, The Shallows, 47 Meters Down, 1 and 2. So yeah. I think the movie is definitely worth revisiting if you haven't seen it in a while.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, so let's stick with this Jaws theme and tell us about Jaws the Revenge.
Jaws the Revenge was the very first movie I ever saw, the very first horror film I ever saw in a theater.
Oh, really?
So 6 or 7 years old. And because I was that young and impressionable, I thought this movie was an absolute masterpiece. Like, I thought it was just, it's perfect. And I remember, I guess I just gotten a handheld cassette player. And for some reason, I brought it into the theater and I was recording the audio for Jaws the Revenge. And then I at one point, I pressed the wrong button and I hit like rewind and then play. And so for like 5 seconds, my mom was mortified. Turn that off.
Oh my God. Like then, you were pirating the movie with audio.
Not much of a bootlegger.
No.
But then when I got home, I did like kind of like a Siskel and Ebert thing. I was, I edited like the audio of this movie and then my thoughts about it. And like I remember thinking that a certain character was very pretty. That's like the one point I think I made. But it was weird to grow up, and I would rewatch this movie quite a bit, and then to grow up and then find out that this movie is known as one of the worst movies of all time was a very weird revelation. And I could definitely see why people bash it to pieces. and laugh at it, but I'm glad that it sounds like we're both going to have some good things to say about it.
I have a lot of good things to say about it. To me, I feel like this, like the shark looks the best. Like I love the way the shark looks in the water.
I'm not going to agree with that.
You're not? Like I love when
No.
I thought the mechanical shark looked awesome in terms of, I mean, I will say it does look absurd when the shark's out of the water and the guy, one of the guys on the boat is like in the mouth of the shark at one point. It's like he's just riding there, which is kind of absurd. But I don't know. I liked the way the shark looked compared to some of these other newer movies we watched. I was like, come on. I don't know.
This is a very slow shark. And the fact that
I mean, it is
sharks,
slow.
This is the one that's gonna swim from New York to the Bahamas in record time. No way.
Yeah, but if you think about it, he's swimming with a purpose. He knows where he's going, the shark.
Yeah. So Jaws: The Revenge, it opens. I love the way it opens on Christmas Eve in Amity. So I love the way that it brings us back to this very familiar town, but we see it in a new light. There's Christmas imagery everywhere, and I loved being back here. And they brought back a couple of the locals. It was great seeing them again, like Mrs. Kittner.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, and so Sean Brody has stepped into his father's footsteps and he's become a police officer for Amity. And one night he has to clear a log from a buoy or something. And I love the way there's a Christmas Christmas recital. They're rehearsing for it outside with all people watching it, with the conductor like barking insults to the singers. So why would you do this in front of everybody?
Yeah, I know.
It's just a rehearsal. But I like the way that the Christmas music kind of blends in with the sounds of Sean's boat and the water, and then it kind of distorts when we get the underwater shots. I thought it did a great job of building tension, and this is something that was missing from the opening scene in Jaws 2.
Yeah.
And so the shark comes out of the water, bites Sean's arm off, and then drags him underwater. And it's shot in a very chaotic way. A lot of people will complain that it's just overly choppy and you can't make sense of what you're watching. But I don't know, I like that it kind of conveyed the chaotic nature of a shark attack. And the way that Sean's screams are kind of blending in with like the first Noel from the singers. I thought that was very effective. And I wonder if my mom was tempted to bring me out of the theater. That's kind of disturbing for a 6-year-old to watch.
It is. I mean, you were so young when you saw that. Mm-hmm. I also like to go back to that scene you're describing. I like how, the whole point, he's out there, he's trying to dislodge this log that's blocking things up. And after the attack, the log just kind of floats away. It's dislodged. It's like as if nothing ever happened. But of course, there's the boat there and the wreckage. So, something happened. But I just like how that's kind of like the final shot, like, oh, everything's like normal in the water now. So that's kind of cool and poetic in a way, just like with the music and the chaoticness.
Yeah, very sad. And then the next sequence is all about Ellen Brody's heartbreak about losing her son. And I like the way that they did. Roy Scheider is not in this movie, obviously. They had a picture frame of him. He's passed away in the storyline from a heart attack. And we don't get a whole lot of scenes in Amity. I wish that the movie had spent more time here and we would get a scene of Ellen talking to Mrs. Kittner, because I love the fact that she's like a family friend now, because they were enemies in the first movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Because what happened. And so it's nice to see that they have this friendship now. And I wish there was a scene of them talking, because Mrs. Kittner is the only one on the island that knows personally what Ellen Brody is going through right now. But they don't really take advantage of that. And then we find out that her son, her other son, Michael, is a marine biologist, of course. Kind of like your dad, but in the Bahamas, instead of being like a pastry chef in the Midwest. Of course, he's going to be working on the water.
Of course.
And so he persuades Ellen to come to the Bahamas, and that's enough of the plot for Jaws 4. I think you've all seen it, right?
I just love how different of a plot it is. Like, come on, the shark has revenge on its mind, hence the name Jaws: The Revenge. So, I mean, if I was Ellen Brody, of course I'd be like, okay, the shark's after my family. I mean, he freaking attacked my husband, or, the sharks attacked my husband more than once. also my sons more than once because, you know, as they were kids growing up, the sharks kind of had run-ins with the kids as well. And now she really is afraid that the shark's going to come for her other son, Michael, after just killing her younger son. So to me, it all kind of makes sense to why she'd be paranoid about it. I mean,
more than justified. And then I like Michael's just insisting that there's never been a great white in these waters before. And he's on the brink of this huge discovery when he actually finds one. So I like the drama of him having to keep it a secret, because I thought that Lance Guest as Michael did a really good job. I loved his reactions were really powerful. I thought. I think he's definitely the best person in the cast.
Oh yeah, and I agree.
Even though he's got the dumbest storyline in this movie about him for some reason being like jealous or just
about his mother's relationship,
disapproving of his mother dating Michael Caine's character, even though they seem to be on very good terms. And Michael said, it's a holiday season, you shouldn't be alone right now. And it's completely pointless. It's stupid.
What did you think about the whole Michael Caine like love angle? Did you like it?
Sure. I thought their chemistry was good. I think I like both these characters a great deal, and I just love Michael Caine.
Me too.
I love the fact that he's in this movie and that he missed out on accepting an Academy Award to film this movie.
So like my dad was like ripping me for liking like the movie so much. He's like, it's ridiculous. It's like one of the worst Jaws. I'm like, no, I mean, I had a fun time watching it, honestly.
Yeah. And it was such a disaster that they've never done anything with the series since then. And it's hard to think of a successful horror series that's been dormant for as long as this one has.
Yeah.
But it's silly. It's the only way this movie there's only one way this movie could make sense. The story can make sense. And that is if they had that voodoo angle. I think there was a novel, and it was discovered that there was a voodoo curse against the Brody family. That's the only way to explain why the sharks keep coming after.
Yeah, it would make no sense in any other respect. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd love to read that. I mean, if there was some kind of hoodoo angle in a book version of it, oh my God, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, but I think that the director seems absolutely lost. It's hard to know whether to blame the director. Or the editor, but I'm pretty sure it's the director. Didn't, because the ending is so stupid. It's shot so incompetently. There's never like an establishing shot of what's happening.
Yeah.
And they actually had to film two endings because the first one didn't test well, and both endings suck. And it gets laughable towards the end when
it does.
When there's an attack scene and then the camera gets extreme like slow motion close-ups of the characters going, no.
yeah, that part's great though.
Somebody do something.
Yes.
And it's lame.
Because I like cheesy stuff, liked that part. I was like, this part's great. I mean, not like great as in, oh, it should win an Oscar or anything, but in terms of enjoying it and like just having a simple, fun, mindless, good time. Sometimes it's fun to just kind of let go. Even, most of the movie I think is actually good. But then when those parts come up, they just don't bother me that much a lot of times, especially if it's like a franchise like Jaws that I like. Maybe that's why. Yeah. Maybe it's the bias I mentioned earlier. Maybe that plays a part.
Yeah, and you feel kind of loyalty to the series. And you don't want to kind of go along with the masses. Everyone a lot of people have a hard time giving this movie one compliment. And so it's nice to kind of look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. I said before how they filmed the movie. They filmed two different endings. And depending on how you saw the movie, you would get either ending. When I saw it on TV a couple times, they would show both endings. The movie would end, they would have the credits, and then you would hear this voiceover person say, Jaws 2 actually has a second ending or something along those lines. And then they would show that one too. And so it has to do with the shark's destruction and the fate of one central character.
Yeah.
So they changed a couple things. And they're both stupid.
I can't believe the TV channel included both. That's kind of neat that they did that.
I can't think of another example of that happening.
Yeah, me neither. That's actually awesome though. I like that they played both, even though they both aren't good. It's still fun to kind of compare them.
I thought the best scene was when the shark chases Michael. He's in like a submarine, and shark attacks him, and he swims out, and then he swims over to this into this sunken vessel. And then the shark chases him inside, and I guess this is one part where the slowness of the shark works to the movie's advantage, because the way it just kind of gets closer and closer to Michael. I thought it was terrifying, and it still affects me to this day.
No, I love that scene. I thought that was very well done. I wasn't sure you would like that scene for sure or not, because you're a lot more critical about, like, how it's shot and everything. But I thought that looked good. I thought that was tense. And you're like, no, how is he going to get out of this? But somehow he manages. So
yeah, and I just love that. It was one of the best, like, Jesus Christ.
yeah, it came out of nowhere. That was great. So my final thoughts is, of course it's worth a watch. It's part of the Jaws franchise. Don't believe all the haters. Make your own opinion and check it out for yourself. If you haven't seen it, that's my opinion and advice. Check it out for yourself and judge it for yourself.
I would echo that. I'd give it a. This is a hard movie to rate.
It is a hard movie to rate. Like, don't want to rate it too high, but like I wouldn't rate it low either.
I know, especially since this was a part of my childhood.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to look at it objectively, but 6 out of 10.
I would agree with that rating. And honestly, like, if I compare it to the movie Great White, it's so much worth watching over Great White, let's say, for example, to me. So yeah, people bash it, but to me, it's way better. Your time is better spent watching Jaws the Revenge than Great White, personally. But again, just check it out and form your own opinions. I'm always up for that. That's what I always advocate with books and movies. Well, of course, for books, it would be read it for yourself, not watch it for yourself, but you get the picture. All right, so that's our Jaws discussion. Lots of Jaws talk. And now we're going to go on to some other movies. And I will say the next one we're talking about, I'm kind of excited about because I really loved it. And it was my first time watching it. And I wish I had seen it, sooner, although it's only from 2017. So it's relatively new. So we're about to talk about 47 Meters Down. And this was directed by Johannes Roberts, starring, and I actually know the people who star in this one, Mandy Moore, who I recognize right away, and Claire Holt, as well as Matthew Modine. And he's from Stranger Things.
Who looks a lot like George Hardy from Troll 2, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, I could see that. That's great. Yes, I didn't really realize that, but now that you say that, yes. I love Troll 2, as I know you do, too. It's in your book. Spoiler alert. It's a great movie for Halloween time.
Should be in every book.
It should be. It's a great movie. I love that movie. All right, so let's talk about the ratings before we get into the synopsis. So the ratings, 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb, 53% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm sorry, Kelsi. I'm going to cut you off. Nobody pay attention to IMDb ratings. They're all... Every single one is wrong and stupid, and
they're never over a 5.
I don't know where they. Yeah, I know. I'm sure. I bet The Exorcist is like 4.2.
That would be absurd.
Not a good way to judge a movie's merits.
I just like to read them off. I mean, just out of curiosity's sake. But I agree with you. Don't really pay attention to the ratings, especially IMDb. It's always in the 5s. I hardly ever see it 6 and beyond out of 10. It's kind of ridiculous.
It's great.
And so, but Google users liked it, but not as much as I thought. So just to compare this, so 47 Meters Down, 75% of Google users like it. But let's go back to Bait for a second. So Bait, 83% of Google users like it. Why are more Google users liking Bait than 47 Meters Down? To me, it's clear which is better. I think 47 Meters Down is way better in terms of quality, tension, acting. Literally everything about it is better. And it's got a great ending. A really different ending. So to me, I loved it. And here's the premise quickly. 2 sisters vacationing in Mexico are trapped in a shark cage at the bottom of the ocean with less than an hour of oxygen left and great white sharks circling nearby. They must fight to survive. That's a very simplistic type of synopsis. There's a lot more at play. And I love how the sisters have such a strong relationship. I thought their characters were really, really well developed, but they only were kind of on screen for a short amount of time before they even got in the water. So that was so well done. You have such a short amount of time to establish them and their relationship, and it's done so well and quickly, but effective. So overall, the sisters, great relationship there. I mean, you see it as they're vacationing in Mexico a little bit. They're going through something, especially Mandy Moore's character. She's going through a breakup and having a hard time, which perfectly makes sense to why they were so gung-ho to go to such a shoddy type of, sea excursion tour where they're going to get into this shoddy shark cage and all that.
Yeah, because her boyfriend, who they cut his scenes, but he was actually played by James Van Der Beek.
Really? So he was in it?
Yeah, they cut his scenes. But one of his complaints about her was that she was boring, and so and so she wants to prove that she's not, and so that's why she's talked into doing this insanely dangerous stunt. And I thought she did a really good job. Her hesitancy was very believable, and
Yes.
she has like a panic attack when she actually sees the cage, and she has to get talked into this numerous times, and I thought that was really powerful.
I just thought the acting was top notch. Like she really made it believable, like that she was a newbie and she was super scared and anxious and just scared out of her mind, as I would be. But it's kind of a dream, honestly, to go into a shark cage, even after watching this. I mean, it's kind of hard to say after watching this that I still want to go, but I do. Just to say that I did it. But oh my God, can you even imagine your heart racing in your chest as you're down there? Especially
My heart
when
was
you
racing
fall.
enough throughout this movie.
I know. So imagine being in the actual water.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. So basically they're trapped all the way down, and that part is so just unnerving that they're just down there and there's nothing they can do about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
yeah,
scary.
When the cable breaks and the cage just starts sinking farther and farther, it's, oh God, I thought I was going to have a heart attack, even though this was actually my second time seeing it, and it was just as scary as the first time, even knowing what was going to happen. And yeah, this is a great movie.
I think it's one of the best movies we chose to watch. I really feel like it's really high on the list of all the movies we watched for this time, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, this is the best one.
Yeah, I agree. It was just technically
not even close.
Yeah, I technically, especially, it was really well done, and just the quality was above the others.
Do you know anything about what happened during the release of this movie?
No, what happened?
Okay, I'm just going to read. I think I copied and pasted this from IMDb, but the film was originally titled 47 Meters Down, and then it was going to be given a DVD release, straight to DVD, and it was going to be called In the Deep. So the title got changed, and then it was going to come out on DVD, and then like maybe just a couple days before the date, it got sold to Brian Allen's Entertainment Studios, and then they retiled it back to 47 Meters Down to give it a theatrical release. And so they still had these copies of the DVD, and some of them got leaked. But because the Shallows did so well at the box office, they realized, okay, we can make some money here from this 47 Meters Down movie. And so, they waited another year and released it in theaters, and it did very well. It was a very smart move. It was made for only like 11. It was made for maybe $5.5 million, and it grossed 11 million in the States and ultimately earned $62 million worldwide. And you can tell this movie means opening business just from the opening credits. It's like we get this really unsettling minimalist score and really good cinematography that captures the dark abyss of the ocean. So it was really scary, and I thought the main characters are likable and fleshed out pretty well. I didn't like the scene where they go dancing, because it's probably the worst song I've ever heard in my whole fucking life.
If it was a better song, you would have liked that scene.
I could have tolerated that scene.
Yes.
It was garbage.
Well, I wouldn't go dancing, so I can't relate to that part at all. Like, even if I was broken up with somebody and like wanting to get back out there, I'd be like, no, let's just stay in and eat some ice cream or something. That's what I'd be doing.
For sure. But yeah, I was lucky enough to see this opening weekend and in the theaters, because I'm very much into shark movies, and this one scared the bejesus out of me. My heart was racing a mile a minute, and I liked how when they're in the cage, they have no communication with Matthew Modine's character, so they have to leave the comfort of the cage. There's nothing comfortable about the situation. To go high enough to be able to hear his voice and communicate. And every time they have to leave the cage, it is so scary. I guess if I had one complaint about the movie, is that I wish the sharks weren't overly aggressive the way they are. It takes away a little bit of the realism, because every single shark just comes at them, and so there's so many close calls to the point where it's like, there's no way they would still be alive.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like, I guess I kind of justified it or explained it away in my head by saying that they were chumming the waters illegally. And so once the sharks kind of get acclimated, kind of like you train a dog to do something for a treat, I guess they start to get like, used to having food provided to them. And so anything in that particular spot, maybe the fishermen go to that spot quite a lot and they're always chumming. And so that's why they're extra aggressive perhaps. And now this is just me. It's completely speculation. It's completely me trying to make it make sense and reading between the lines. But on the surface level, I completely agree with you. They were way too aggressive and it didn't really make complete sense. You kind of lost a little bit of realism overall during that, those aspects, those parts of the movie, but it didn't bother me too much, honestly, overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't really bother me there. I would have liked, one shark to kind of like swim around them slowly, just kind of curious, just to add a little bit of variety. But there's some grueling scenes in this movie.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I love the aspect that they have to conserve their air because the number is getting smaller and smaller, and so there's so many ways they could die in this movie. It's the worst possible situation to be in, and as a viewer, I was having to control my breathing too. Yeah, and there's one incredible shot where they one of the characters lights a flare, and you see what's around them. It is. Oh, but I'm sorry. Going back, the scariest part of the whole movie, in my opinion, is when Mandy. I don't know I can't remember her character's name, so I'm just going to call her Mandy Moore. Is when she has to swim out of the cage, and then she gets disoriented and doesn't know how to get back. And we see from her point of view, like how like unclear the waters are, and she has trouble seeing, and she's like freaking out because she doesn't know which direction to swim in, and she can't hear anybody. And as somebody who's directionally challenged like myself, I thought that was very traumatic. And,
I mean, she looks around and she sees nothing. Like there's nothing to kind of guide her back to where she just swam from. Yeah, and that's what's crazy. To me, I'd be like, oh my God, how am I going to get back? It was a struggle just to get to where she got in the water at that point.
Yeah, and these sharks look insanely good.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
We have. I thought it was a lot better than a lot of the other sharks for sure on this list that we watched.
Yeah.
I'm still liking, I don't know why I like Jaws the Revenge Shark and you hate it, but I like the slow, crazy shark that looked really like fat and ridiculous. I liked him.
Yeah. Then I hope you got to ride the Jaws ride when it was at Universal Studios.
I did. Yeah, I did.
It looks exactly the same.
It does. I had fun on the Jaws ride. It's sad that it's gone. It was historic. Like, what the hell? Why is it gone?
I know, that was a sad day.
Yeah.
And what did they replace it with?
I don't even know. I'm sure something ridiculous and
some superhero bullshit.
Yeah, that's just such a bummer. I know it wasn't, the fastest or the most exciting, but like if you're a fan of the movie, it was something you had to go and visit if you were there.
Yeah, I know. It's not like this movie has lost any relevancy over the years, too.
Never. This is like one of the most historic films of all time. I love this movie, and I will not back down from that statement. I think it's one of the greatest films ever, period. All right, so 47 meters down. Doesn't get a thumbs down, it gets a thumbs up, maybe 2 thumbs up because I really loved it. And this was not on our original list, I should say, for us to watch. We kind of added, and I'm so glad we did because to me, it was one of my favorites of the whole marathon.
Excellent. What would you give it out of a 1 through 10 scale?
God, really high, very close to 10. I mean, I guess because of the hard to believe nature of the sharks, maybe that's the only reason I would subtract a little bit in terms of sometimes it would just come out of nowhere and be like, hey, I could sense you're swimming a little tiny bit. So I would guess I would give it like either an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10, honestly.
Yeah, I can think of very few flaws in this movie, so I'm right up there with you. And you'll be happy. I don't know if you've seen the sequel, 47 Meters Down Uncaged, but it is just as good.
Oh, really? Well, I can't wait to watch it. I'm definitely going to watch it in a future shark-themed month because I kind of want to keep the shark viewing thematic and like do a lot at once because it's fun.
Yeah, that one impressed the hell out of me. And it's got one of the coolest settings in any shark movie you'll ever see.
Well, now it's a must-watch if it has your stamp of approval. So I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I will say, so earlier you mentioned that you love shark movies and that you'll go see any. See, I love Jaws. But growing up, the hints of other shark movies I watched, like the little bits and pieces here and there, like on TV. I think I saw part of Deep Blue Sea and I was like, some of this looks terrible. I just couldn't get over how great Jaws was compared to everything else. So to me, I love sharks and I love shark documentaries. I always watch, Shark Week and stuff, and I have since I was like a little kid because my dad loved to watch it too. But in terms of other shark movies, I really am behind on that. So you're way ahead of me on that. I like sharks and I like Jaws. I just kind of, I guess, didn't want to give other shark movies a chance, but I'm glad I did so with this marathon.
That's good to hear. And I'm a little bit jealous that you're going to be seeing like movies like, have you seen The Reef?
I think
Okay, because I think that's the scariest one.
I don't know if I have seen that one.
Okay, yeah, that is a masterpiece. And
what
so
year is it from? Like it's a new one?
2007, I believe.
No, I haven't seen that
a little
one.
bit later. Okay, yeah, it's also Australia. It's very much like Open Water in terms of its realism.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see it. I'll have to add it to my list for next time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they used real sharks as well, much like Open Water.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
They couldn't afford fake ones.
Well, that makes them look great because they're real. So I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm terribly afraid of sharks, and so it's much like the scary illustrations in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. The illustrations in a Hungry Hungry Sharks book taught me that you could find fun in the things that you fear.
Yeah.
And so there are plenty of terrible ones out there, but when you find one that takes you back to those early childhood fears, it's quite exhilarating. I kept going with this marathon, and I watched a couple others. I saw Deep Blue Sea, the first one I fucking love, but man, these sequels are dreadful.
Yeah, I must have seen a snippet of like one of the sequels or something on TV, and I was like, I don't know.
Third one is just garbage.
Yeah. So speaking, you mentioned Open Water. We're going to talk about next. I'll let you introduce it. Open Water 3. Let's talk about that. I actually enjoyed it. So give us your rundown of that.
Okay. Well, I saw Open Water, the first one in theaters, and it had a profound effect on me. I've never reacted this way to a movie where I was so scared. Like I actually had a tear going down my face, but I wasn't crying. My face was completely still, but it was because this is like my ultimate fear, and the fact that they were able to capture it so unbelievably well.
Yeah.
In terms of the realism and the desperation and just the utter heartbreak. So I thought that was a really amazing movie, and the fact that they filmed it on a minuscule budget, it was just remarkable. And so in terms of the scariest movies I've seen, that one's way up there.
Yeah.
And so because I loved it so much, I had to watch Open Water 2, much like this one. This was not intended to be Open Water 2. It was filmed as Adrift, and then the studio or the distributors decided to change the title to capitalize on the success of Open Water. So it was retitled Open Water 2, Adrift. And you'll be hard to find a good review of that movie, but I thought it was entertaining. I like the fact that it takes place in the middle of the ocean, but there are no sharks. Because I think, the middle of the ocean is scary enough as it is. You don't need to bring sharks into the equation every single time. So I thought it was entertaining. The problem is that the characters are so dumb. I'm not one to usually complain about that, but it's just it got really annoying. And the movie has maybe the worst ending in a horror film since High Tension.
Yeah.
It is just dreadful. So I had high hopes for Open Water 3. Had a really good poster, had a killer trailer, and I like the fact that we're living in the age of all these great shark movies, and so to stand out, you have to do something different. And I like the fact that this took a found footage approach, because we have not seen that, as far as I know, in a shark movie before. And so it centers around the movie. Okay, the movie was called Cage Dive originally, then they retitled it Open Water 3 Cage Dive.
Yeah.
So it's about 3 characters who are auditioning to be on some reality show. And so they're filming an audition of them doing all these wild and crazy things, like riding amusement park rides and like being real pervy behind the camera with their close-ups. And I thought these characters were insufferable. I could not stand them. I couldn't wait for them to get into the water.
And they weren't very smart either. We'll talk about it later, but the tent and the flare, come on. What is going?
That part was rad. I loved it.
Oh my God.
But there's finally some drama, maybe after 20 minutes, when one of the guys leaves the camera on accidentally, and then a major plot point is revealed that adds a lot of drama to their dynamics. And so, and I liked when they are the next day when they're going on this cage dive. We see the little video of like what to look out for, what to prepare for. You know, the odds of getting to have a negative encounter with a shark. I thought that was very, very, very fun.
That was.
I liked the freak wave that obliterates the boat, but instead of being kind of trapped in the cage or having the cage being sunken, they emerge from the cage and they're kind of they're just floating into the water for most of the movie. And I thought it looked pretty good, and it was well acted enough. It had a really good nighttime scene, and and that flare mishap was fucking incredible.
I mean, the character though, to me, it's like, come on, why would you do that?
Yeah, she was.
Well, I guess she was in shock, but yeah.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're aware that any wrong decisions could cost them their lives, and so just swimming after an object that might help them becomes kind of crucial. And there's a lot of levity when they find these items that get closer to them, much like how a character in Open Water suddenly finds candy in his pocket. So there are some some positive moments. Well, yeah. What did you think about Open Water 3? You said that you liked it, right?
I liked it, but I also had some mixed opinions about it, some mixed feelings about it, because I like some elements. I do feel like I wish we would have gotten to the shark part a little quicker. I know we were character building and going along with the friends, and it was all found footage, so that all made sense. I liked, like you said, I thought that was unique, that it was all found footage and it was a shark attack type of movie. It's that's really, really different and rare. And you wouldn't think that they would do a movie like that, but it somehow they made it work pretty well. We discovered this footage, it was a cracked, and underwater cameras exist, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that it would be fine. They'd be able to recover the footage and look at it. So I liked that a lot. Like I said, just the characters and how they interacted sometimes was a little annoying. I can't stand them. I mean, I'm sure in a way you're supposed to feel that way but I thought you were supposed to be more sympathetic for them so that you could kind of feel scared for them and relate to them. And at points you did. You came to like them a little bit more over time. But just in the beginning, it was hard to even like them at all or want to spend time with them. Yeah.
I mean, nobody deserves to be in this situation.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, my heart was not aching for them.
That's yeah.
Sure. Anybody that would point to his biceps multiple times. It's
True bros.
I like. Usually with found footage films, a major critique is, why are you filming this? Why don't you turn the camera off? And so the fact that it's probably a GoPro, I'm hoping, and that this is part of an audition tape, so it gives them incentive to leave the camera on.
Yeah.
I thought they'd solve that problem. The footage looks okay. Obviously there's some, the fact that all some major action just happens to be front and center on the camera is it's hard to believe. But
oh yeah,
I'll give them points for trying something new. Had a really great nighttime scene, and it's only 80 minutes long, so it's entertaining. And it's available for free pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I would say overall it's worth checking out, especially because, like you said, it's something different. It's something unique and unusual in terms of how they shot it and everything, and the whole story about it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't my favorite. I'll just say that. But I did have a good time overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that they, when you're going to be in the middle of the ocean at night, obviously weather or temperature is going to be a factor. So I like that they brought in kind of a freezing to death aspect to this.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of what you said about the nighttime scene, I thought it was great how you just couldn't see anything. Even kind of through the camera, it was hard to see a lot. Mm-hmm.
But you would see strange red lights in the distance.
Yes. And then they would speculate on what it was. And I liked that part of it a lot. That was really well done. And you felt for them, especially at night, because, I would be so mortified at night. What was that? That might have brushed against my leg. What the hell? You cannot see anything.
Any second could be your last.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to point out the producer and the editor has a funny name. His name is Andre Stamatakokos. I like that a great deal.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Overall, you would recommend it though, right? Or you wouldn't?
This is one I am so right in the middle on.
Yeah.
5.5 out of 10, probably.
I'd probably just give it a 5 out of 10. Not far from where you are. You
Mhm.
know, middle of the road, but why not? Why not just check it out if you have the opportunity? As you mentioned, it's free almost everywhere, so it's not like you have to pay. So that's a good thing too. And it's just a fun thing to watch, especially in summertime. Really, shark movies are fine for any time of year, but if you're looking for that, you know, sharky, summery feel, you can't go wrong.
And there's one final shot. I think it's the final shot, but yeah, it is. It fires on all cylinders. It is intense.
Yeah, I like that final shot too. That was really like a bang. You were wondering it had to end some kind of way. And then like when things started to develop at the end, you're like, something bad's got to still happen here.
I think I got an audible like, whoa.
Yeah, that was awesome. I did like the very end for sure. All right, so we're coming to the very end here, I believe. We're going with our last film, The Last Shark. I'm really excited about this one, and I think we might have differing opinions, but I'm okay with that on this. So this is notorious for being a terrible movie. I wanted to watch it because I actually found this movie on a list of shark movies, you know, to check out if you just wanted to have a shark marathon. It might have even said, I mean, I don't think the list said underrated because I would not describe this movie as underrated. I just think it's kind of like a hidden weird movie that if you want to laugh your ass off, like Troll 2 type of level, I feel like this would hit it for you. At least for me. For me, it did. There were some slow, boring parts, I will say. But when some of the action hit, oh my God, I laughed so hard. I like was screaming like in the car. I was watching it in the car on the way home from when we were evacuated from Florida. And I was just like, had my headphones in and I was like, like audibly, like, and then Paul was like, what are you like yelling about? I was like, this shark attack's great. Numerous hilarious shark attack moments, but basically this was released in 1981. It was directed by Enzo G. Castellari. I can't speak today. Castellari. And basically the premise is a character named Peter Benton. So that character tries to save hundreds of swimmers in a coastal resort after a great white starts terrorizing the area. And this movie basically got sued for being so close to Jaws, from what I understand. At the time, but it's now finally like able to be watched and stuff and streamed. I found this on Tubi. You can find it with the Riff Tracks version a lot of places besides Tubi, but if you want to watch it without Riff Tracks, like if you just want to form your own opinions about the movie without their commentary, you could find it on Tubi. That's how I watched it without the commentary, and I gotta say it was marvelous. I loved it. I just laughed my ass off. I don't know how you feel, Nathan. What did you think?
I wanted to. Well, I did some laughing and I did some dozing off. There are some real boring parts in this movie.
There were.
There's just, all the shark attack scenes are priceless, very enjoyable. I've never seen so many mustaches in a movie in my entire life. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I thought the music was atrocious aside from that opening like synth pop number that kind of sounds like Sparks. I like that song, but the rest of the music was very annoying. I don't like how there is hardly any drama between the characters on land. Like they're all pretty much on the same page. Like there's no like major conflicts. The actress who plays the wife is terrible, and she doesn't know. She does not know how to make coffee. I don't know if you saw, but she fills up the pot with water and then walks over to the coffee pot, pours a little bit of the water into the reservoir, and just at least most of the water in the pot. So
what the hell? I didn't notice that part. That's amazing. That makes it great. That makes the movie greater.
Yeah, and let's see here. There's one incredible shot which I watched probably 50 times of a shark ramming full speed into a raft, and then we get a shot of like the character who's now a mannequin floating up in the air really slow, very high, and then we cut to the crowd, and there's a guy who looks like Randy Quaid holding a Confederate flag for no reason. Just like little touches like that were amusing. There's one character in a shark attack scene that is wearing a red Snoopy shirt. So I like that. There are multiple scenes when characters go out to kill the shark, but it's never explained what they're trying to do. So they'll feed a delicious roast to the shark, but don't have the backup plan. There's no weapons or anything.
Yes.
That happened not multiple times. So that was weird. Vic Morrow is in this movie. He's supposed to be the Quint character. His accent is all over the fucking place. There is one point where the shark literally knocks down every single person in the regatta race, but doesn't eat any of them.
That's the part that made me laugh so hard. Like he goes, who the shark goes after. It makes no sense when he just knocks everyone into the water and they all swim to safety. Like, why doesn't the shark eat them if he's, so hungry? It's ridiculous. Oh my God. All these things you're naming, though, they could be considered negatives, but to me, they were all positives because I loved all of those elements. Except the coffee. I didn't notice the coffee, but I'll have to watch. Maybe one day when I watch it again, because I am going to watch it again.
Okay. Maybe you can explain why there's a Walker Texas Ranger character that gets introduced with like 10 minutes to go. He's supposed to be like, I guess, a hero or something. I don't know. He's boring. So many characters are dull. There's a line that I liked called it says Dave came in second in his last race. He's got a chance. And then the character responds with, so does Billy Joel. I don't know what that's about, but I had to write down.
I don't know what that's about either. I don't know if your version sound like there was some audio problems when I was like I couldn't hear very well, like the mixing was bad. I don't know if that was the copy or if that's like the actual film and the way it was mixed, but
yeah, for sure. I remember that too. This was one of a few films that Universal Studios sued for its likeness to Jaws.
Yes.
And so they sued this movie and it got pulled from theaters in North America after just a couple days. And it's got some things in common, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, I actually thought it was quite different. I mean, there are some elements that you could say is like a straight ripoff of, in terms of like, the character of Ron Hammer sounding like Quint, or trying to sound and be like Quint and kind of like macho and stuff, but really not really though. Like if I wouldn't have known that the movie got sued, I wouldn't have made that connection per se, like that it was so close to Jaws. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different in terms of, one, it's bad and Jaws is great, but there's just a lot of differences in terms of what's going on and the whole race and everything. And I don't know. I wouldn't have made that connection right away if I hadn't have already read about that.
Yeah. Have you seen Cruel Jaws? The unofficial Jaws 5? Okay, you should watch that one next. It incorporates actual shots of Jaws and actual like scenes of this movie. So it's ripping off multiple movies. And it came out in 1995 in Italy. It's got a Hulk Hogan lookalike as the main character. It's so much fun. And I laughed at that movie a lot more than I laughed at this one.
Well, I'd like to, and if it uses scenes from this one, then I definitely want to watch it and like kind of compare like what the heck it does. That is going on my list for sure. I know that you didn't laugh at it. I mean, there are boring parts. I will say there's slow parts. The pacing was a problem, but I just felt when the attacks happened, it just made me smile and laugh. And that's what I remember.
That helicopter
attack
is the greatest.
I know. In fact, so do you want to go straight into our top 3 favorite shark kills? Because we're kind of talking about that a little bit.
For sure. Kelsi, why don't you start off with your third favorite?
All right. My third favorite was the attack in Bait, where a shark comes up and a guy's hanging off of like this vent thing, and the shark basically takes off his like lower half of his body. It's incredible. It's amazing. So Bait's not the best movie, but as I said earlier, I kind of teased. I said that kill is worth it alone. That's the kill I was referring to. Is my number 3 favorite shark kill from this marathon.
Excellent.
Yeah. How about you?
I went with a scene from 47 Meters Down. It's one of the guys who tries to dive down and rescue the girls. He just gets attacked out of nowhere. And it confirms that these are some of the most vicious and powerful sharks in film history. So I thought that, and the fact that it was just so unexpected, that the timing was perfect. So,
yeah. I mean, so I think you're going to go with like,
maybe... Don't Don't assume anything.
All mine are not like serious at all. So my number 2 is from The Last Shark. The shark comes and rams the boat instead of getting all of the kids that are falling off the boards. All that's around are these surfboards, and people are getting knocked off left and right. And the shark goes for this boat, knocks into it, and the guy in it like goes straight up like a rocket. So basically, and that's the great thing about The Last Shark is everyone gets killed as if they've been hit by a rocket almost. Like anytime anyone's hit from below with this shark or by this shark, they're like exploding like a top. It's great. So that was my number 2, the boat attack in The Last Shark.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that just carelessly fall into the water in The Last Shark.
Yes.
Doesn't take a whole lot for them to lose their balance.
I rewound that scene 3 times. I love that little part.
I don't blame you. When you watched it on Tubi, did you get a commercial for a shark air purifier?
No.
Okay. So I thought that was clever.
That is so funny. No, I wish I would have. That sucks that I didn't.
I can't remember what I just have written down shark air purifier ad on Tubi. I don't remember. My memory is suspect.
Your memory is a lot better than mine. Like you're coming up with all these details from all these movies, and I'm like, I cannot remember. I just watched these movies this month, but I will say, to my own defense, not that I deserve defending, but it's been a crazy, terrible month, and I appreciate all of you guys. Me and Nathan were supposed to record this chat long ago, and he's been so gracious. We had to reschedule a couple of times, so he's been awesome, and I appreciate it. But yeah, this month's been crazy because of Hurricane Ida here in Louisiana. And so that's why my memory is extra bad, I think. But Nathan took so many good notes. So thank you for being so precise and like observant, because these are some great observations. So going on with the observation, what is your number 2 kill?
The store manager in Bait.
Yes, yes.
It's just an insanely cool 10-second stretch where the manager, another time where a character tries to be a hero, he wants to go through the vent. And because the effects were so terrible, I couldn't tell if those were spiders or crabs, but he just gets showered with these things. And so it's already bad enough. And then the shark just comes out of nowhere and just bites him in half. It's so good. So, and the scene is available to watch on YouTube alone. So I highly recommend everybody giving that a try.
Yes, Google it because it's really cool and fun, and you're just like, what? And like you said, I didn't know if those were crabs or spiders or some other kind of crazy creature, but I don't know what would be in the vents there, but some kind of bug or sea creature. But yeah, I would have been freaked out too, and I would have just fell in the water right there personally.
Yeah. Oh my God, for sure.
I wouldn't have hung on like he did. So he did better than me a little bit until he met his demise ultimately, like just a second or two later. All right, so that comes to number 1. Okay, brings us to number 1. The Last Shark again, the helicopter scene where this guy kind of like, it's a little bit similar to Bait, honestly, because
that's why I didn't include it, because it's similar to Bait. Yeah, it was tough to pick one of those two to go into this, but they're both equally strong.
I mean, yeah, and they're very, like I said, they're very similar, but I wanted to include them both because I really liked them both, and since they were both from different movies, I was like, okay, I can include them each. But yeah, basically we've got this character, and this is one of the instances that you hinted at. People going after the shark with bait, like great stuff for the shark to eat to lure the shark in, yet they have no plan. So this politician guy just hops in his helicopter, flies out in the middle of the ocean, and he's telling the dude, get lower, and he lowers the meat. But he seems to not know what to do next. Like he didn't plan ahead at all. And that becomes very apparent like 10 seconds after he drops the meat. And he's all like, what to do? Pull up. And like the shark's coming after him. And then he kind of loses his balance. And then he's screaming at the helicopter guy. By the way, the helicopter guy is ridiculously calm during this whole thing.
No reaction at all.
Yeah, he's just like, like the dude's getting eaten right there and your helicopter could be pulled down. It's great. Anyway, so very similar, but yeah, his legs, it's awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually watched that probably 5 times.
Yeah, that was marvelous.
And I'm going to watch it many more times in the future for sure.
I think I will too. I don't have any problem rewatching that scene at all. All right, what's your number 1? Drum roll.
My number 1, you don't even really get to see much of the shark at all. It is from Jaws 2. It is the death of Eddie. Is my number 1. You only really see the dorsal fin, and then like when it swims underneath the boat. But what happens? It's directed, edited, and acted to perfection. is when Eddie and Tina are just out on the sailboat, and it's very idyllic and enjoyable. And then the shark comes out of nowhere and spoils their fun. And the situation gets increasingly dire because Eddie and the boat are becoming farther and farther apart, and every foot means much more danger. And then Tina spots the dorsal fin and just screams after Eddie to swim faster. I thought the actress did such a great job in conveying the utter terror of this situation. And I like the fact that Eddie is just pretty much just swimming towards the shark because because that's where the boat is.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing else you can do, really.
I know, and it's the editing is so good, and then when he just gets pulled underwater just for a moment and then just flies straight for the boat, it's so fantastic. And Tina, when Eddie first falls in the water, the only part I don't like about the scene is that Tina is the one saying help me to Eddie. Not much he could do. And then the way that she's just paralyzed in fear, and she makes no effort to help him when he tries to climb up back onto the boat.
Yeah.
I thought that the actress who plays Tina, I think I have her name. Anne Dusenberry. I thought she was kind of like an unsung hero in Jaws 2. And when Chief Brody finds her hiding in the sailboat later, and
I love that.
Yeah, she's traumatized, and I thought it gives me a chill every single time. It's kind of like
so well done. Like you don't even see her in the boat. That's how hidden she is.
Yeah.
She's so like in a shell and like so scrunched up because she does not want to be seen. I mean, she's just so afraid the shark's still there. And she has no idea what's going on. It's such a perfect portrayal of shock. It's just so believable. Really well done. I agree with you.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with your number one.
I mean, I think The Last Shark honestly is worth it just for that. And then the boat as well is kind of good. But number one, you can't beat that helicopter. And what's funny is we have so many mentions in this chat alone of helicopters and sharks. So it seems like they go together very well, which is very surprising. You don't really just associate them so closely all the time. But you need ways to kill people other than them just being in the water or in a boat. So a helicopter, it brings another little element to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm sure there's so many helicopter scenes in these like made for sci-fi shark movies, and I know we didn't include any of those.
No.
So, but maybe if we do a sequel, we'll cover a couple of those.
We'll have to, because I feel like I'm basically left behind. I haven't seen Sharknado ever or any of those like big ones that everyone's talking about. Again, for so many years, I feel like I'm behind on these shark movies because I was just not giving them a chance because of my Jaws bias. But I think I'm going to throw that bias aside and start checking out more overall. So thank you for kind of, pushing me out of my shell, Nathan.
Yeah, I actually last Christmas night, I watched a shark movie. It was called Santa Jaws.
Oh, I think I've heard of it before. I haven't seen it, but you liked it?
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Fun?
Yeah, it was fun, and it's unbelievably stupid, but I did not get angry with it at all. It was just kind of like a lighthearted Christmas viewing experience. So,
well, that kind of makes me want to watch it because I love stuff like that.
I don't know, a Santa hat on a dorsal fin. That's something you never thought you would see.
That's incredible. That sounds like I would freaking love it. So I have to add it. All right, so we're coming near the end of our chat, but we do have one more thing to talk about, and it's not a movie. It was our second book we read as part of our little shark-themed fun event marathon. So we read, it's semi-shark themed. Really, the cover is more shark-related than the actual book. This is Goosebumps Deep Trouble, and this is Goosebumps number 19, and I did read this one as a kid. I haven't read like a ton of Goosebumps over the years, but this one I definitely did. And I think it was a lot of fun, even though it wasn't necessarily shark related. So we'll kind of get into it a little bit. I'm going to read the back of the book quickly. Don't go in the water. Billy and his sister Sheena are visiting their uncle, Dr. Deep, on a tiny Caribbean island. It's the perfect place to go exploring underwater, and Billy's ready for an adventure. There's only one rule to remember: stay away from the coral reefs. Still, the reefs are so beautiful, so peaceful. Billy can't resist, but he's not alone in the water. Something's lurking deep below the surface, something dark and scaly, something that's half human, half fish. So you'd automatically assume maybe it was a half shark human. No, not really. There is one little shark attack, which did scare me. I mean, if I was a kid reading this, because I don't remember my experience reading this as a kid, but revisiting it, it was like the first time since I didn't remember that time as a kid. But I can imagine myself as a kid being freaked out by the little shark attack. And also, by the way, there's an instance where adults are ready to just kill some kids in this book, by the way, which I found quite surprising and crazy. Like, why are they about to go out and kill? I mean, I know why, but really, they're going to go there in a Goosebumps book? I had a good time overall, even though it wasn't what I expected. What about you?
I had a good time too. This was the first time I've read a Goosebumps book since middle school, and or maybe it was even. Well, I know I went through my Goosebumps phase in fifth grade.
Yeah.
I read every single one that came out, and I missed this one. This must have been one of the later ones. But it was charming to go back, and it's just an interesting story told in a very simple way, and it was. I read it in like half an hour. I breezed through it, and I had forgotten how the layout is, how the book will end, and then they'll give you like a little glimpse of the next one.
Yeah.
The next one, or it could be a sequel or another Goosebumps book. So it gives you a little taste there, and some like trivia facts about sharks were in there. None of them were very interesting.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, I had a good time with this, very much so. And I just discovered last night, I watched a movie called Death Weekend from 1976, and I looked up the director, William Fruitt, and he's actually he's directed more Goosebumps episodes than anybody else, and he does do an adaptation of this story. I think it's told in actually 2 parts, and so I'd like to watch that sometime.
Oh, I'd love to watch that too. I would be up for watching that as well. I mean, I did watch the Goosebumps show as a kid. I just don't remember every single episode, and I probably didn't watch every single episode. I mean, the one that sticks out the most is when they released The Haunted Mask as like a movie.
That was the very first one. That's one of the ones I've seen. I did love it.
Yeah, me too. That one's great and really, really effective in terms of how scary it is and off-putting and eerie. Just legit like make you shake because just so much stuff happened. And this one's not so scary, except for like there's some human elements that are a little bit creepy. Like I said, guys willing to murder kids straight up. But other than that, it's not super scary. And that one shark instance is, but other than that, it's more of like kind of like a mystery, what's happening, what's gonna happen. But like I say about all Goosebumps books, because I'm kind of been on this kick where I'm trying to read a lot of them for the first time or reread some of the ones that I did actually read as a kid. And I've been having so much fun with the whole project. All Goosebump books are simple, fun, quick, easy, but a good time. Like you don't have to think too much. It's just a nice afternoon, kind of makes you feel a little nostalgic. So, don't go in expecting if you're going to read this that it's some masterpiece. It's just a Goosebumps book, but it's a nice breezy afternoon reading type of scenario. So I think it's a good time if you want something simple.
I agree.
Yeah, but not like the most shark heavy thing. I will say that. That's my only thing.
No, it's I remember the very first chapter. It involves a shark attack. It ends up being a dream sequence, or a fantasy sequence. But I was very surprised by how this book began.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're not wasting any time here.
Yeah, some Goosebumps kind of kick off kind of quick. Others take a long time. So it really depends. But this is one of the ones I've enjoyed quite a bit because I've read a few just in the last 2 or 3 months. And I actually like this one. It was different. It wasn't what I was expecting, but not in a bad way. You would think, oh, no, not as many sharks. Terrible. No, it wasn't that kind of reaction at all. It was different, but not anything that I was mad about being different.
Yeah, and I thought that the brother and sister, they were likable. I liked the rivalry a little bit. And,
overall, just like a cute, good time. And that's what the Goosebumps are for. So I always recommend Goosebumps. I'm never not going to recommend it. And I did want to shout out one other thing that I actually found on a book hunt while I was out of town, evacuated for Hurricane Ida. I went to Florida. There's this wonderful bookstore in Jacksonville, Florida. I kind of did a book haul recently on my channel where I showed some of the awesome books I found, but I didn't show any of the young adult or middle grade books I found. I found quite a bit there, and this is one of them. I actually saw one of my friends, Cameron Chaney, show this book in his middle grade bookshelf tour, but I can't believe I found it. So this is Scary Shark Stories, written by Scott Ingram, illustrated by Eric Inglock. And I don't think there's very many illustrations. I don't know where the illustrations are. Oh, here we go. So there's this kid being pulled in by a shark. God, he looks pretty pretty pained there. Like almost like a zombie.
It reminds me of the scene that was actually cut in the original Jaws because it was too scary.
Yeah. So
when
like,
the fisherman is being the shark is dragging the fisherman closer to one of the Brody kids. And
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's very, very intense.
I think I've seen that deleted scene before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good. So
yeah, it's nightmare fuel.
So I wish I had found this, because maybe we could have found you a copy on like Google or Amazon or something. But yeah, I wish I had. And look here, kind of like thematic for, any of the cage themed movies we watch, shark cage themed movies. Although this illustration makes it seem like the shark is in the cage.
Yeah,
kind of.
It's definitely in the cage.
So yeah, I wish we would have found this, because we could have read this too. But maybe next time we could find you a copy and we could check it out. I just found it, like I said, like a week or so ago. So it's very new. So happy to have it. Really cheap. It was like $1. So
I think that cover is in the public domain or something, because I'm fairly positive that there's like a Faith No More greatest hits compilation that has that exact same cover.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a good find.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. I'm excited to eventually get to it one day. All right, so that basically wraps up our chat. Do you have any final thoughts, Nathan, about these shark movies, any of the books we read, just anything as a whole in terms of shark movies?
I am hopeful that we'll still get some all-time bangers in the upcoming years. Sharks are not waning in popularity at all, but I think they're going to have a hard time coming up with a new formula. I was thinking that maybe going the anthology route would be fun.
Oh,
so that's just something I don't think has been done yet. And I don't know, there are a lot of shark movies out there, a lot of good ones, a lot of terrible ones, and I'm glad that people are still flocking to them, whether it be on sci-fi or in theaters.
Yeah, I think there'll always be a place for them, and really, honestly, I think we do have Jaws to thank for that, or we wouldn't have this big phenomenon. But it is kind of a primal, very relatable fear. As you said, it's one of your real fears, being out in the open ocean and dealing with something like this. So I feel like it's something, and that's what horror does so well. It, makes us kind of come to grips with things that really freak us out. And this is a scenario, even though I like sharks, this is a scenario that also freaks me out. I mean, I used to be so kind of, as a kid, you come up with little things where you're paranoid about stuff, but like in the swimming pool, you get paranoid if you're in there alone. And for some reason, it's not the ocean, nothing's in there, but like you have a feeling something's in there with you. I don't know if Jaws created that or if it's like something more like instinctual.
Swimming pools, yeah, I think Jaws is totally responsible for that.
Yeah, because I used to get so scared in a swimming pool, and it's a pool. There's nothing there.
Yeah, there are a few different companies that do this, but they'll have Jaws screenings they'll have it projected and you're actually in a swimming pool.
Yes. Or like I know I think one was like on like this riverfront, and they were in tubes, like sitting in
That would be the ultimate.
Oh my God, I would go in a heartbeat. I actually so the last time I watched Jaws, I saw it with a live orchestra, and that was also phenomenal. That's a great way to watch Jaws. So basically our local orchestra here in Louisiana, the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, played along with the movie live, and
they don't drown out the audio of the movie, do they?
No, basically I think what they do is they get a print of the film that doesn't have the music, but it has all the dialogue. And I will say it's hard to hear the dialogue when you're watching it that way, because like they don't have a great speaker system for the movie itself. Obviously they've got great acoustics for the playing of their music, but yeah, so the audio is a little shoddy when it comes to the dialogue and the other parts, but when they get to the music, oh my God, it blows you away, because you're right there and you get to see. It is a little distracting because like if you're in a seat where you could see the orchestra kind of well. You're looking at them a little bit more than the movie, but it's a wonderful experience. And if it comes to your town, because it is a traveling thing, like different orchestras get the music and the copy of the film, and they do it a lot of times. So I would look out for it if it ever comes near you, because I recommend that experience.
Yeah, that sounds epic. And, obviously we've seen Jaws so many times, to be able to see it in such a interesting, innovative format would be pretty cool. I've seen it in theaters a few times, and there's nothing like having the audience just erupt into applause at the ending, so at the smile you son of a bitch, so everyone just goes nuts.
Yeah, I love that part.
Always great to be a part of that crowd.
We're glad to at least do something summer related before we're actually out of summer, because yes, spooky season, it is on the horizon, but as of right now, as of the day of filming, as Nathan said, we still have 2 or 3 days left before the official first day of fall hits. So happy end of summer, everybody, and thanks for spending it with us by watching this shark-themed video. Till next time, keep on killing it, guys.